relationship, romantic, even at work, where you just poured everything in, all your energy, your effort, only to feel kind of invisible or just undervalued. Like everything you did, no matter how big, was just expected. And you're locked with that empty feeling, that lack of anything really coming back your way.
Oh, absolutely. It's a really draining dynamic.
It is, and it's something so many of us experience. So today, we're doing a real deep dive into the psychology behind that. Why does it happen?
Right.
We're going to try and unpack why the people who often give the most love, the loyalty, the consistency, why they end up feeling unseen, unheard, basically taken for granted.
Yeah, looking beyond just the surface level.
Exactly. We want to get into the mechanics of it.
And that's our mission today, really, to explore this whole dance. We'll look at the giver, the people pleaser type, who often overextends themselves, not because they're weak, but often searching for validation,
Right, that external validation.
Precisely. And then we'll look at the other side, certain personality traits, maybe leaning toward narcissistic tendencies that are quite good at, well, exploiting that generosity.
Okay.
But we won't just stop at the why. That's important. But we need the what now. So we'll offer some actionable insights, tools, perspective shifts, helping you spot these unhealthy cycles, reframe them, maybe break free, and start valuing yourself first.
Okay, let's unpack that, because it seems simple from the outside, right? People wonder, well, why don't they just stop giving so much? But it's never that simple.
No, it really isn't.
So what is it about, genuinely good people with big hearts who want to connect, want to help? What makes them vulnerable to being taken for granted like this? What's the real driver underneath it all?
It's a really interesting and often quite painful pattern. At its heart, people-pleasing isn't just, oh, I want people to like me. It's usually a much deeper learned behavior.
Learned, okay.
Yeah, this pattern of overextending yourself, driven by that search for external validation we mentioned. People in this pattern, they tend to prioritize everyone else's needs, their desires, completely above their own.
To the point where their own self-worth gets tied up in it.
Exactly. It becomes dependent on that outside approval. And something often missed, which some research points to, is that it's not just seeking approval, but often a heightened sense of responsibility for how others feel.
Oh, interesting. Like they have to manage other people's emotions?
Sort of, yeah. It can sometimes link back to childhood, maybe where their own emotional needs weren't consistently met or conditional. There's even some indication of specific neural pathways lighting up when they anticipate disapproval, almost like a physical aversion to it.
Wow.
So they truly believed, often unconsciously, if I just do more, if I give more, then I'll finally get that love, that appreciation, that acceptance I need. But this constant self-neglect, it just creates this huge imbalance in relationships. And it's so important to stress, this isn't about weakness, not at all. It's a deeply ingrained pattern. It often comes from a good place, wanting connection, wanting to be loved. But unfortunately, it leaves you vulnerable.
Vulnerable to being exploited.
Yes.
Yeah.
It basically sends a signal, sometimes subtle, sometimes not, that your own needs are secondary. And that just sets the stage for being taken for granted. It's practically a blueprint for imbalance.
That connection to neural pathways and the responsibility for others' emotions, that really adds a layer, doesn't it? It's way beyond just wanting to be liked. And what's really fascinating, maybe a bit unsettling, is how these two sides often seem to find each other. Like a lock and key, you said. We've talked about the giver pouring themselves out. But what about the other side? When does that generosity become something certain types are ready to exploit?
That's the crux of it, isn't it? It often becomes this perfect storm. The giver's need for validation meets the manipulator's need for, well, supply, attention, resources, admiration, whatever it is. So individuals with strong narcissistic traits often use very specific tactics. One of the first, and maybe most insidious, is love bombing.
Right, I've heard that term.
It's not just being nice or showing affection. It's intense, overwhelming, sometimes suffocating even. A huge wave of flattery, attention, grand gestures. He creates this incredibly strong, intoxicating bond very, very quickly.
Faster than normal.
Much faster. As some experts, like Dr. Romani points out, the speed is key. It often skips the natural stages of building intimacy and trust that healthy relationships need. It feels less like genuine connection, more like rapid attachment for control.
And the person receiving it feels
incredibly special, seen, validated, which, if you've been starved for that, feels amazing. That's exactly what the people pleaser might be craving.
Okay, so that hooks them in. Then what?
Then, once that bond feels solid, the manipulation starts. often subtly at first. False promises are huge, painting these grand pictures of the future together, assurances of this deep, unique connection. Anything to keep the person hooked.
So the giver stays, hoping things will get back to that amazing initial phase.
Exactly. They're trapped by the hope of future delivery, always thinking, if I just hang on, if I just give a bit more, it'll be like it was at the start. The promises will come true.
But they don't.
That's the painful part. The real reciprocity just isn't there. Despite the promises, despite the initial intensity, genuine mutual exchange, respect, effort, it's consistently missing.
And when you say narcissistic traits, you're talking about a specific set of behaviors.
Yes. And it's important for our listeners to know we're not diagnosing anyone here. We're talking about traits often associated with narcissistic personality disorder or even subclinical tendencies. Things like a grandiose sense of self, a constant need for admiration.
And a lack of empathy, right?
A profound lack of empathy. That's critical. It means they often just don't register the impact their actions have on others in the same way. So this dynamic, the giver and this type of taker, they find each other disturbingly often. It creates this cycle that reinforces itself, and it's incredibly hard to break without real awareness.
Wow, okay. That paints a much clearer picture of how that imbalance gets created and sustained, the vulnerability meeting those specific tactics. So, what does this mean for you, listening right now, if you're recognizing some of this in your life, your relationships? How do you actually use this knowledge? How do we make interactions healthier? How do we break that cycle?
Right, the practical steps. Well, the first thing, maybe the most crucial skill for the giver, is learning to set boundaries. And here's the key part. Without guilt.
Without guilt. That's the hard part, isn't it?
It really is. But it's not about being aggressive or pushing people away. It's about protecting your energy, your time, your self-worth. It's understanding that saying no to something that drains you means you're saying yes to your own well-being.
So boundaries aren't walls.
Not at all. They're respectful lines. They communicate what's okay and what's not okay, and how you're treated, how your energy or resources are used. It's self-preservation, plain and simple. Not selfishness. You're just defining your space. That's a fundamental right.
Okay. And what about dealing with the manipulator side of things? If you realize someone is using these tactics.
Then it becomes important to, let's say, call out the cost of their behavior. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean a big dramatic confrontation. Often it's more effective through your actions.
How so?
Well, for instance, if someone consistently forgets to pay you back money they borrowed, you stop lending them money. Simple as that.
Right.
Or if they constantly make promises about sharing chores or tasks but never follow through, you adjust your expectations. You stop relying on them for that specific thing. You make it clear through your actions, not necessarily angry words, that you won't keep putting yourself in that position.
So you're changing your own behavior in response.
Exactly. It's a quiet shift in your investment. You let the natural consequences of their behavior affect their access to your energy, your time, your resources. You refuse to keep enabling it. You detach from the outcome they promise and engage with the reality of what they actually do.
That makes sense. Dealing with the reality, not the hope.
Precisely. And that brings us to maybe the core universal lesson here. Love isn't proven through sacrifice. It's proven through mutual respect.
Say that again?
Love is not proven through sacrifice, but through mutual respect. Healthy relationships, the ones that last and nourish us, are built on reciprocal care, understanding, valuing each other's needs and boundaries. If you find yourself constantly sacrificing your own well-being, your needs, even your identity, that's not love. That's an imbalance. And eventually, it just leads to resentment, exhaustion, total burnout.
Wow. That distinction, sacrifice versus mutual respect, that really puts a different frame on it, doesn't it?
It does.
It makes you think about all the subtle ways maybe we accept imbalance without even realizing how it's chipping away at us. So for you listening, how do you start applying this? How do you look at your own connections through this lens? Because understanding it is one thing.
Right.
But hearing how it actually plays out for people, that really brings it home.
Stories make it real.
We looked into a lot of accounts, sort of echoing what you find in self-help and psychology resources, and there are these common threads. Like, take Sarah, this example from an article. She talked about a friend who'd always forget plans they'd made, leaving Sarah feeling hurt, frustrated, you know. And the friend always had some elaborate excuse, often followed by a big promise to make it up to her.
The classic pattern.
Exactly. But Sarah's big aha moment was realizing she was always the one making the effort, initiating, making excuses for the friend, rescheduling. Her giving, her understanding had basically become enabling. She was just chasing that initial good feeling, hoping for reciprocity that just never came. And the emotional toll, Huge. Feeling unseen, totally exhausted.
That exhaustion is so common. And then you hear stories like, uh, Mark, he talked about being love-bombed by a new business partner.
Okay, in a professional context.
Yeah. This partner promised him the world, huge role, amazing perks, constant talk about their brotherhood.
Yeah.
We're going to change the world, just us.
Making him feel incredibly important.
Totally, like he'd found his perfect counterpart. But then Mark hit a personal crisis, needed some support, even just simple follow-through on a shared task.
And the partner
Vanished. All the grand visions, poof, gone. Left Mark exposed, financially and emotionally. He described this really painful process of seeing through it all, realizing that initial intensity wasn't real care, it was a tactic.
God.
But the key thing in both these stories, whether it's overextending or being outright manipulated, is that moment. That moment of recognizing the cycle.
That's the turning point.
That is the absolute first step to getting your power back.
Yeah.
It's the spark. It lets people start to think, okay, how can I change this? How can I prioritize me? How can I find relationships based on actual mutual respect?
Okay, so connecting all this, the dynamics, the stories, how can you, listening right now, start integrating these really powerful ideas into your day-to-day life? Starting this week, what are some practical steps, maybe even spiritual ones?
Let's start with something concrete for self-reflection. A journaling prompt for you this week. Just sit with this question. Where am I saying yes out of fear of losing someone instead of out of genuine desire?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It really pushes you to look at your motivations, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Where are you maybe compromising yourself, your energy, your integrity, just to keep someone happy or keep them around?
Is it fear driving the yes? Fear of being alone, fear of disapproval?
Exactly. Or is it coming from an authentic place, aligned with what you truly want and need? Figuring that out is huge for understanding your own patterns.
Okay, that's the reflection piece. What about action?
For action this week, practice 1, loving no.
A loving no. Explain that.
It means saying no gently but firmly, asserting your boundary, stating your need, but without being harsh or shutting someone down aggressively. It could be saying no to taking on yet another project at work when you're overloaded.
Or maybe an unreasonable request from a friend.
Perfect example. Or even just saying no to getting pulled into a conversation you always drains you and gives nothing back.
And the loving part is how you say it.
Yes. Communicate your boundary with kindness, but be clear. I really appreciate you asking, but I can't commit to that right now. Or, thanks for the invite, but I need to prioritize some quiet time this evening. It honors your need while still acknowledging them. It's surprisingly powerful.
I can see that. It feels less confrontational, but
Yeah.
still clear.
Exactly. And then maybe on a deeper level, let's think about self-love as a sacred act.
Okay.
It's about truly recognizing that your worth isn't something you have to earn by constantly giving or sacrificing. It's inherent. It's just there.
So connecting to that self-worth.
Yeah. Connecting to that deeper reverence for yourself means seeing that prioritizing your well-being, setting those boundaries, seeking mutual respect, these aren't selfish things. They're fundamental ways you honor the sacredness of your own life, your own being. It's like recognizing your own spark and refusing to let others dim it just because they don't see its value.
That's a beautiful way to put it. So the core message here for you listening is, remember, being undervalued. It is never, ever about your actual worth. It's about understanding these dynamics we've talked about and then reclaiming your power, making sure your generosity goes where it's genuinely appreciated and met with care, not exploitation. It's a journey.
Yeah.
Discovering yourself, empowering yourself.
Absolutely. And maybe this leaves us with an important question for you to really mull over, even after we finish here today.
Okay.
How would your relationships actually change, maybe fundamentally shift, if every single interaction you had was truly grounded in mutual respect, in that real balance of give and take?
Wow.
And following from that,
Yeah.
what concrete steps, even small ones, can you start taking right now to bring more of that mutual respect into your life?
Yeah.
Into every connection, starting with the one you have with yourself?
That's definitely something to think about. We really invite you to continue on this path, reflect on this stuff, try that journaling prompt, practice that loving no, and hey, share your stories with us if you feel comfortable. This journey of growth, of moving from feeling invisible to being truly seen, it's ongoing, and it really is just beginning for many people.